Hi, I'm Pappy Frank. Welcome to Great Grandpa's Tool Chest. I want to make a marking knife for you today, and this is going to be a quick, simple, easy, quick put together marking knife. I'll come back on another show and make you a lot more elaborate, better marking knife. I won't say better because this will work just fine, but something that most people would perceive as better. I wanted to show you this one. You'll notice the blade here, it's about a 60-degree angle or so, and that's what we'll be making. But we're going to be using a regular hacksaw blade. And hacksaw blade is, they're a dime a dozen, they're around everywhere. You could afford to go buy a new one to do this, I suppose, but I managed to keep a number of them wore out. After you've cut it off, you break the angle, like I said, at about 60 degrees. You can use a regular stone. I've got a cheap stone that I bought. You can get them like that at Harbor Freight for peanuts. And you want to take the teeth off of the edge about 2 inches. About 2 inches of it. I guess I should give you some measurements. That blade was 5 inches long. This handle is 4 inches long. And when we put it in there, I've already got this one prepared. We'll put it in there, like this, and we'll leave about 1.5 inches sticking out. But, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll use a hacksaw blade, use a 3/4 dowel. I had a piece of a dowel here, but anyway, there it is. Use a 3/4 dowel, and we'll set that up in the saw here, and very carefully cut a slot in there. You can see I've already done that. You cut the slot in there. You got to be careful to get in the middle and get straight and go straight down. And I stopped at about 1/8 inch before going clear through. The reason for that is 3/4 dowel. Blade is 1/2 inch. Stop at half inch from 3/4 leaves 1/4. You want 1/8 inch on each side of the blade, and voila, that puts the blade in the center. Okay, we've got that. We've got that all ready to go. We've got the blade ready to go, and now we're going to use some epoxy on this thing. And I don't suppose I need to actually have you watch me use the epoxy. That's easy to do. Let's squeeze out that part. Now, I'm using Quickset epoxy. In fact, I'm using JB Weld. JB Weld is a good epoxy. You can get good epoxy from Harbor Freight. I've used theirs considerably, and it's cheaper than JB Weld. But Harbor Freight's down the road about 30 miles from me, and I went over to the Getting Place this morning that's about 10 miles away and got that. You need that piece of wood here to mix it with. Alright, we mix that epoxy up real good. You know how to mix epoxy. I'm not going to have to give you that. There's a couple things I want to show you about putting it in there. First of all, you want to put some down inside before you even start with the blade. Sometimes that can be easier said than done. Oh boy, got it on my finger. I love it on my finger, yeah. Now, I intentionally cut into the other side just a little bit on this because I wanted to show you. You can use just plain old piece of tape. I should have done that first. That's just blue tape. Tape that across there and the epoxy's not coming out. Now, we'll get that epoxy down in there. Okay, next thing you want to do, take your blade, figure out about where it's going to need epoxy, and put a layer of epoxy on each side. Just a thin layer. I'm going to take a lot. Okay, you've got that done. Now, your dowel, take your blade and just slip it right down in there with about 1.5 inches or so sticking out. A little bit of epoxy left, and we're going to put that right here on top. Like so. That's about it. All you have to do now is set that aside and there we go. Let the epoxy dry. Come up here. Come up here. Yeah. That's a good girl. It's a good girl. Yes, it is. Trying to knock things over up there. Uh-oh. Caught me talking to my dog. She's a pretty good girl. Anyway, with where'd it go? The pardon me, the epoxy is set on this, and what I want to do now is show you several ways that you could use to finish this thing off. We got a bunch of epoxy on it there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the sides. I'm going to taper these in just a little bit and just kind of round off the back. I'm not going to do anything fancy with it. You'll notice I've got a plane here in my vise upside down. That's actually a good way sometimes to work small pieces of wood. That's just about what I wanted right there. That's a good way to work it. It's quick and easy. I actually do this quite a lot. Let me get that out of there. Okay, now we're going to run this up where we can put the blade in it. This time we're going to turn it over there where I had that flat spot. We're going to turn it over to the other side. There we go. Make sure that's in there pretty tight. Next thing, we could use a spoke shave. I'm going to have to move that. I don't want to do too much there with spoke shave because I want to show you another way. Also, I have here a draw knife. I made this draw knife. Excuse me. We'll show you how to do that. That's made out of a hacksaw blade, a power hacksaw blade. They're about 1 inch wide. I think these I have are about 16, 18 inches long. They work a whole lot like the draw knife, and they're lots of fun. Well, I would not probably work that side with that. I'm going to bring this out just a little bit here, and there's where I want to run it down. Turn it just a little. Where I want to work here, I would be willing to do that with a draw knife. You can push a draw knife. In fact, when I made this, I called it a push knife because that's what I did with it. And do that. Got that close to what I want. I'm not going to perfect it here. You can take your time to do that. I do want to show another way. Excuse me. These little files like this, I say file, it's a rasp. These are cheap. I bought this at a flea market. These are cheap. They're round on one side, they're flat on the other side. Now they've got a coarse and coarser on the flat, and on here they've got coarse and coarser. And you could work one of those in here. It doesn't take much work to do that. And problem with doing that, and I use that pretty coarse side, you want to come back and smooth it up a little bit. After you get through with that, you'll want to come in with one that's even less coarse, and then you work it on down. Here's one that's fairly fine, and that's not too bad shape right there. Now I want to I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on this other side, but I'll do that later. Now the other end, like I said, I wanted to just round it off. I'm going to put that in like this, and I'm going to go back. You know, I looked for my carving knives to get ready for this. I think they're behind the tarp. That tarp's hiding a window. I believe I mentioned that. Get a lot of light behind it. I'm going to move my bench to a better location when I get to where I can get it moved, but it's going to take a lot of working. But anyway, I was going to use a carving knife here. I can show you. This is my marking knife. You could round this off, you know, with a carving knife. This one's not going to work real well for this, but you could round it off with a carving knife. You could also use the draw knife and draw that thing across there and round it off, and so forth. Or you could use the rasp. I've got another rasp here on. Kind of like that. The other thing you're going to have to contend with is this excess epoxy that came out of the slot, and that can be a rascal. Now I have a scraper, and it'll scrape, and it'll do the job, but it's going to take you a little bit. What I would suggest on that epoxy is a file. Problem with using a file, you're going to cake it up a little bit. It'll get caked in there, so you'll need to keep a file card or a brush around handy. But anyway, you've got the idea. It's going to be easy to clean up. It's going to be easy to shape. I've got 95% of shaping done now. Now, the end of it. I wasn't real clear on the opening part of this. When I used the hacksaw blade, I broke the hacksaw blade in half. Hacksaw blades break pretty easy. I just grab it with a pair of pliers and bend it real sharp, and it breaks right off. You can also turn them pliers at an angle and break the corner off. Now, I don't have exactly the bevel I need. It's not far off. I'm going to bring it down just a little more. You can do that with a stone, or you can do it with a grinder. The grinder is real easy if you have a grinder. If you don't, like I mentioned earlier, you can just do it with a stone. Once you get the shape you want, then you put a little bit of a bevel on it, and then you go to your stones and or whatever sharpening system you have. You can go to that and sharpen it up. Now, I'm right-handed, and you're only going to want to sharpen one side of this. And if you're right-handed, you're going to want the way you would use it. You would want to sharpen the right side. That would be probably the best way. Now, when you use one of these, you put a straight edge on what you're going to mark, and you'll just run it right down there. On the other side, you just turn it around, run it up that way. You can mark both sides with a single bevel. We will come back in another video and make a double bevel. I think I already promised you that, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Anyway, that's what we're going to have. Finish it up, put a little bit of oil on it. You don't have to use a dowel if you want to. You can start with a nice piece of wood, but do it the same way. Split it, glue it, shape it, you're done. This thing, outside of the set and wait time for the epoxy, and if you used a 10-minute epoxy, well, that wouldn't be long. This is not 10-minute, but it didn't have to wait too long. If you used a 10-minute epoxy, it wouldn't take just a few minutes. It'd be dry. You could go ahead and shape it then. You could make one of these in 30 or 45 minutes, probably pretty easy. If you were using 10-minute epoxy, do it for an hour for sure. And then you'd have you a pretty decent marking knife. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. When you get through with it, you're going to want to finish it. You know, my choice is going to be linseed oil and paste wax. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed showing you. Send me some comments if you want to, or some suggestions of things you'd like to see. I've got a whole list of things I want to do. I don't have them in any particular order, so if you have a preference of something you'd like to see next, let me know, and I'll get that on there just as quick as I can. In the meantime, I hope your day gets better than this. I hope your day gets better from this. God bless.